Good afternoon, or should I say good evening? I want to welcome you to tonight's edition of Yes You with Friends. This is your spiritual thought leader, Regina L. Stillman, and I'm so glad that you took the time to join us for this conversation on this evening. And this is December the 6th. Can you believe that? In the year 2020, this year is basically over. And if you look and notice that we're looking a little bloodshot in the eyes and a little fatigued and a little worn, it's because we stayed up for the Rebel Inc.'s birthday party last night, and the Saints are tired. So at the end of the day, we're glad to be here with you on this evening. My friends, I've got tonight, you see some extra faces. I've got Jonna, I've got Rhonda, and I've got Tyrone, but you'll also see Jay Bez, wave at us, Jay. And I've also got Michelle Brown, who's just like a sister to us. Thank you so much for you all coming out on tonight. And oh, look, at Sheila Miles said she sees her baby. She done went in, y'all. I'm not mad. I don't care how old they get. They're still your babies. So I am not mad at you at all. I asked them to come in on tonight. And good evening to all of you. Jams JJ, Anita Harvey, and Sheila Miles. We're glad for you. And I see some others out there that are not in my chat. And as I always like to say, you're welcome to come in and have conversation with us. Just jump in that chat and start talking. And you are welcome to share your thoughts, comments, and ideas with us as we carry on tonight. Now, you see the extra individuals here with us on tonight, Jabez and Michelle, both because they were really, as you remember on last week, we kind of went down the rabbit hole accidentally. And I'm gonna jump right in because I've already been informed that the Chiefs at 7:20, so I'm on a time window. Y'all looking so serious tonight. Y'all like y'all what's going on with my friends? I need to do a checkup on my friends? But I really want to start with the follow-up of last week. We went down the rabbit hole talking about foster care and the fact that we needed to go through definitely some reform and address some situations and some scenarios as it relates to that. And Jabez and Michelle both were giving a lot of input into that. And I want to go back and say, first and foremost, to those of you that have been giving on this week, no sooner than we had this broadcast on last week, there was a situation that we were made aware of where we are able to help 4 little girls. And we have started an initiative to help those 4 little girls and their grandmother who has charge of them at this particular point in time. And many of you have reached out with your love, with your resources and your finances. And we are funneling that right onto the family. Thanks to Rhonda Royal. And Rhonda, I want to say thank you for taking this on and making this possible for us to be able to be a blessing to that family. Is there anything else about that situation that you'd like to share, or do you feel like that it needs to be kept at wraps at this point? Whatever you feel, anything you want to share about those 4 little girls that we've taken on to just love on them?
No, it's just amazing how we had the conversation on last Sunday, and then first thing Monday morning I get a call. And so this just happened. The only good thing about this is that the grandmother was able to get the kid. The last week we talked about how sometimes the family they will not place him with the family. Well, this time they did contact the grandmother about midnight. They ran a background check and blah, blah, blah. And then they brought the 4 girls to the grandmother at 3 a.m. that morning. With absolutely nothing. And since then, I have spoken with the grandmother, and I'm trying to see what all she can get because she's not getting anything. What about food stamps? What about So I'm working with her to say you need to get something because anytime you take on that many miles, everything increases: electricity, water, food. So we're working on that to see what she can what type of assistance she can get. But at the same time, I want to thank you all for stepping in and helping because I was just going to help. And when I was talking to spiritual thought leader Regina, she was like, hey, we can help too. We got to put our money where our mouth is. We just spoke it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so it would have been so easy to make it someone else's problem. But that's happened for so long. So no, it's all of our problems. And
Yes.
I want to thank everyone that was able to assist, and it's gonna be all right. I think who was that? Yolanda Adams sing that song, "Already All Right."
Yeah, already all right. Come
It's
on here.
already all right.
And we've been talking, and it's amazing, as you said, we speak it and it came into existence within a matter of hours. But it's amazing how we started to say, see a need, feel a need. And that was one of the things that started coming out in our Yes You OQ'd in the mornings, and people just started chiming in with that, see a need, feel a need, and then the need open. I want to kind of bring us to the point, even as we ended up on last week, Rhonda challenged us, if you all remember, as to whether or not we're saying we're just going to do this for people of color, black people, or are we extending this to everybody when we start talking about charity begins at home and then spreads abroad, and so on and so forth. And it just so happens that these four young little girls don't look like us, but I still feel like we have a responsibility to love on everybody, because that's what we're about and that's how we operate. I'm gonna jump real quickly over to Michelle, and Michelle was commenting that she has, like my family, like my mother's family, actually exhibited the idea of how you step up to the plate and fill in the gap, and begin to have a safe home, a safe haven for friends, family, whomever. And I'm just going to kind of drop it right there in your lap, Michelle, and let you kind of share your personal experience. Because it's one thing to talk about doing something, and it's another thing to do something. So I wanted to bring you in for sure, because your family is actually doing something and has been doing that for some time. So please share with us on today.
Right. As far back as I can ever remember, even when my grandmother was living, there was always extra people in our home. I didn't ever know why. I understood why we always had these extra people. But as I grew up, most of the times it was family members who had either become homeless or especially in the 80s during the real crack era, we ended up with a lot of little cousins, so forth and so on. And my mother and grandmother just took those kids into the homes and we took care of them. And I think it just became the same thing with me and my sisters as we grew older. Like my grandmother did it. This is what you do. You don't let the family go if you can have it, if you can help it. But I also seen that some of my family members, the thing is too, that you have to keep your home to where your home is somewhere that, first of all, the government will allow the kids to come to. You have to be able to pass background checks, all of those things. Um, the sad thing about it, like you said, is that you don't receive money, you don't get food stamps because these are family members, especially if they're close family members. They just assume you take care of them. Our situation always has been to where we have been able to take care of those kids, but it's kind of sad, and that is where the reform needs to go because even though I'm able to take these these three kids, I was just lucky because of my career that I can take care of extra people, but everyone's not able to afford that. But that's kind of how, we did. We always have. It's just been a lifelong thing, a family thing. My grandmother always made us. We always had extra food and extra whatever. I don't care if it was just beans and cornbread. We had extra beans and cornbread for somebody else. So
Awesome.
we was just taught that way.
So was the gist that none of your family, if you were able to help it, would go into the system? Was that your push? Is that pretty much where you came from, or was it just the open door policy to whosoever will? I mean, how did you all work that?
It was always just an open door policy, just to make sure that if there was a need in our family, that one of us could take care of it. My family, they just did not believe in no one else raising our kids if we could help it. I have two in my home right now that became homeless and doing this COVID thing, and they're staying with us. And it just has always been that way. And I don't know, it's just always been that way. And one of the kids that I raised was a crack baby, which is one of the most difficult crazy things to do. But if you go, you get the assistance, you get the therapies, it can be done. And people like, I can't let everybody in my house. Well, somebody got to raise them. I mean, you don't necessarily want the government to do it.
And how do you all feel about that idea that we should step up instead of expecting or anticipating that the government's going to do that for the others that are listening? How do you feel about that? And I applaud you, kudos, and thank you for your family and the open heart, because again, you echo a lot of what our family and my mother's family experienced as well. And I don't know. I kind of feel like that's a dying breed and a dying concept. Maybe it's not, but I'm going to open it up to the rest of the individuals. And Jabez, I really kind of brought you in too. You're welcome to definitely share, but you're a solution maker. And so one of the things that anybody knows about me, I'm not just about continuously talking about a problem without providing some solution and concept and idea. So feel free to jump in. I know you had some solutions and whatnot on last week. But before we jump to you quickly, I want to ask and kind of poll the panel. Do you think our society right now is open to taking in individuals in our home, or is that a turnoff at this age and stage of our existence?
If I can chime in, I really do think that the system itself right now is set up to not get the children the help that they need. It's not very focused on the children's needs as a qualifier. They don't necessarily say, well, this child has X, Y, and Z needs, and we need to pair them with a home that can provide X, Y, and Z. For instance, if the child is a child of addiction, or if they come from a home with violence. Those are all very different qualifiers, but in the system, they really want to check out if the parents or the home that they go to are stable, make money, and those aren't necessarily the same qualifiers that each child needs, which is why last week when I said each child has special needs. Every child does, but not every home is equipped to meet those needs. If you're a home that's really equipped with financial support and things like that, that doesn't necessarily mean that your home is prepared to deal with someone who's met with a home of violence and what that means. If you're someone who's never dealt with substance abuse in your home, then having a child who is very adept to seeing substance abuse, it may be a disconnect there. And I don't think the system as it exists now looks for those needs and tries to plan for that child to be placed in a home that can meet its needs.
Awesome. That's a good points. Jonna, any thoughts on that? And I do want to just insert real quickly that Michelle is a nurse. She is trained and she is qualified. So she does have some special skills that your average person may not have. And I don't know, we'll come back to you on that. If you think, Michelle, that the average person without some of the skills that you have could handle some of the challenges that you're currently taking on. Could anybody and everybody do that? I don't know, because you have skills, girl. You got skills.
I think that, and that could be possible because everyone, my mother, my grandmother, all of us are healthcare providers. So that may be the difference to where we're able to see and understand certain situations where the average person may not.
Okay. Jonna, what are your thoughts?
Well, I love Jabez's point about the home being a home that can meet the child's need. Because I do not think, and this is just in my experience, I do not think the system is necessarily looking for homes to meet specific needs. I think they're looking for homes that qualify. And if you do, then boom, you can have the kids. But there's so much more to it. You have to have a capacity for the kid. And each one of them is going to have a different need. And that's where it starts to get a little sticky because you don't know, in a lot of cases, you don't know what they've been exposed to. And if you have what it takes for this particular child or set of children. So, it just gets really hairy in there.
Got you. I agree. Rhonda?
I agree. We have a family here that constantly taking the children in, so they're known as foster family. And because they've been doing it so long, that when kids become available to go, they just send them to them. regardless or not if they're going to meet the need. It's just that they know that this family we can send kids to. So I don't believe that they're trying to match and see if this one is going to be able to handle the need that this child has. I don't even know if they take the time to find out exactly what type of need the child have before placement. And so that in a nutshell brings it to the point where now you've got the kids jumping from home to home to home. Because if you check to see what the kid actually need, what the child, I hate to say kid, but you know what I mean, the child actually need, then maybe you can find a placement that they can stay there for a while. But if you don't, you just put them anywhere and that family cannot handle it. Well, now you're going to uproot them and you're taking them somewhere else. If they don't have it, you're going to uproot them. You're going to take them somewhere else. And a lot of times that happens until they, what do they call it? Age out the system. And so, because I don't think they're looking to place them with homes that can handle and assist them with the situations that they have.
And when you talk about families that really become like career and well-known foster care, my mother, the home that she went to, my grandparents pretty much were just a given. It was when they took kids out of the system, they would send them there. And then another, where the church that my mother came from, that pastor and his wife, same way. When they would take kids out of situations and they needed care, they knew they could drop them off. My only concern there was that definitely they got to the point where they were very elderly. And so you had these elderly people with these little kids, and definitely we were all church oriented. So whether they were acclimated to going to church every day and every night, you going now. Because hey, I'm just keeping it real. We came from that environment. If I'm going to church, everybody up here going to church. And so you had young kids with old people, and I can only imagine how that really felt to the children. And they gave love, they gave care. There was no question about that. But then when you start talking about what a small child needs and what young children need, even in the way of activity and interests and things like that, you start wondering what was the impact on those children's lives and so on and so forth as it relates to that. And then, as you said, Rhonda, bringing up the point of them aging out. Tyrone, what are your thoughts about it?
Well, I actually had technical difficulty, so I didn't hear the question.
When we're talking about the whole essence of foster care and what needs to happen, and even just kind of based on what Michelle was sharing, what is your thought and what's your opinion about the system and how it's working and what needs to change? I'll pose it to you that way.
Well, I mean, I'll go back to what I said last week, and even what Michelle said as far as like her family. It's been tradition and generational that the family steps in and takes care of the family, and that's what I feel. And every situation is different. Not speaking on any personal experiences or anything, but I feel it's important for the family to at least try to be able to be put in a place to take care of the family, so that we're able to continue to, raise our own, and without having, outsiders come in and take care of our kids. If we're put in a position and we have family members who are able to take care of your family, we may not get the resources. We may not get, food stamps and everything else from the government. But for me, I look back to, I didn't grow up with a grandmother, but I know what a grandmother has done. I've seen several grandmothers. I see what my mother's done as far as like just taking care of kids, and they do it because it's what they're known to do. Not looking for a resource, not looking for the government to step in. Yeah, it may be nice, but it's just in us to take care of us. And I think that's what we should all strive to do. Every situation is different.
Sure.
Not saying everybody has to do it, but that's just my view on it.
Michelle, have you found and been given any opportunity for specific training, as Sheila says, what's available to foster parents to meet those specific needs? Did you find them coming to you with opportunities for training?
Now, as far as me, like I said, I'm in the healthcare field, so I didn't really look or take care of any other trainees, and I work with mental health on the side, so I have a lot of the training that I could have to deal with some of those kids. Now, I do know that I live on the Kansas side, so the Wyandotte County Public Health Department, they do have a lot of child care rearing classes that you can sign up for. They're like continual education that you can sign up for, and those classes help you deal with. They first of all they teach you the basic child care because everyone doesn't know basic child care. They think they know because mama did this or grandma did this, but how to take care of a child. So, and all of us, it's trial and error when you raise the kids. We just do what we do, but they do have actual childcare classes that you can take. And then there are some other like mental health classes that you can take. But I will say this just to tag on to what had been said earlier is that don't take this the wrong way, but the reason we ended up with some of the children, well, my mother ended up with some of the children that she raised, is because we can't pass background checks and we can't pass all of the needed things that we need to have for the government to say that this is a safe home. So that's one of the things we need to look at is ourselves. Is like, how are we living and how can we raise a kid that we're not even passing the mental things that we need to?
Okay, that's a good point. That's a good point. So then that kind of throws a little monkey wrench in there. And even as Anita said, the idea of compatibility of the foster children to each other, how is that considered? Because you don't want children to fall prey to other children. And there are definitely offenders in the children's ranks as well. So you got to take all that into consideration while you're going forward. Sheila asked a question earlier, and I'm gonna go back to that and then bring us back to Anita's. Is it because there's sparse availability of foster homes is that a large part of the issue? And I'm going to answer that based on my conversation with someone in the foster care field. And I would say that is a yes, because she identified and she serves in Kansas. She identified that in actuality, they're taking children out to really remote areas because, as Michelle said, you can't get people to pass background checks and other things that will qualify them to be able to take the children. And so the people that do qualify end up being in some of these far off remote areas. And at the end of the day, they end up being far away from home and anybody that they know, but it's where there is an available home that qualifies for those children to go. Now, I still want to go back to this point, and I understand what you're saying as far as the point, Michelle, of people that can't pass background checks and so on and so forth. Is that really when we start talking about background checks, financial ability, and all of that in the Black community, those are traps that have already been set where Black people have a very difficult time overcoming. And I'll let any of you all jump in after this. I'm gonna ask it directly to Michelle and then you all can chime in. But is that not part of the systemic problem?
I'm gonna say it is part of the systemic problem, but I've never had a problem passing the background check. I'm saying sometimes we blaming some of this stuff on systemic, and this is the way that we live in. But
Tyrone, don't even try it. Don't even try it.
But what? Can you say that again? Please say that again. Which way is my hair supposed to go? Please say that again.
I just said some of it we're saying is systemic, and it's the way that we're living. But yeah, so some of it is systemic. There is a lot of traps that are set for us, but some of these traps, we just set up for ourselves.
Pow.
But let me
mind blown.
May I rebut?
Not blown. My mind's not blown. Maybe your mind is blown, but
no, because I said the same thing, and they're like, no. I appreciate you, Michelle. Thank you.
It's not.
John, go ahead, Dave.
Those judgments, some of them are valid. Yes, some of it is the way we're living, but some of it is systemic in the laws. Because as an LGBT person, you may not be allowed to foster children in many states in this country. As somebody who is single parent, you may not be allowed to foster children in many places in this country. So there are things that the system specifically has barriers to you, to healthy homes and healthy parents, to not be able to care and foster children. And I don't think that there's any judgment on somebody for being a lesbian or a gay man or in a gay relationship that says that they shouldn't be able to take children. But you tell that to the state of Mississippi, Alabama, or all but the blue states on the coast, you're going to have an issue with that legally. So it's not always just the way you're living, because that argument goes very, very far down another landslide.
And again, she didn't say it was all. The point was there are some things put in place that are considered traps for us, or not just minorities, but people who live certain lifestyles and this, that, and the other. But there's also part of it that we may not be living the best lifestyle.
No, I don't think anybody is opposed to that concept, Tyrone. It's just the idea of negating the reality that there are some traps and pitfalls that are out there that you have to actually acknowledge and say they need to be brought down. It needs to be. It should be torn down. Now, as Michelle said, she has the ability, because of her profession and her income, to be able to do what she's doing with no help from the system necessarily. My issue, again, going back to that same concept, but you'll turn around and give someone else that is in the system all kinds of financial help that provokes them to. That's why they're there. They're really not there for the kids. Let's be real. They're really not there for the kids. That check, as I said on last week, is building somebody's house. That check is providing them the extra money that they need to be able to play in the stock market. That check is provided for them with absolutely positively no care about that child. And that is real, and that is systemic. I saw you pointing, John. Did you have something you wanted to say there?
No, I was just pointing in agreement, like exactly that. Because I think that the support needs to be focused on the children. So many times people are focused on the support of their household, but they're not focused on the support of the child. And that's why I come from this whole entire conversation as there's no such thing as other people's children. They're all our children, because if they ain't your kids now, then they're going to turn 18, and they're going to be out in the streets, and they're going to be what do they call it? Burden on society. You have to pay for them to, be fed and housed in other ways. So I think that when it comes to children, you have to make sure the child, not the household, not all of the other factors, but the child is getting their needs met, because they were taken out of their home, presumably for a reason, sometimes not. But those reasons need to be addressed in the child, not necessarily given the money to, giving the resources, I should say, to the household of which they go to, without some social worker, without some secondhand follow-up to make sure the child's needs are met. Because that's really what it's about. Is this child getting their needs met?
And the individual I know as a social worker is basically identifying that many times, even though, yes, the child is safe, maybe, question mark, from the social worker side, their needs are not being met. It's just a matter of placement. And placement and needs being met are two different things completely. We have people like Michelle and her family who are able to meet the needs, but that's not everybody.
Exactly.
And that's not all the homes.
And the focus right now, I believe, is on placement. And I think placement is important because we have too many children who are not placed in a home, in any home. But just because you're placing them in a home doesn't mean that it's good for the child or that it's good for the home. If you have a child who comes from a place of addiction and you place it in a home where they don't even know to look for needles or look for them disappearing for periods of time, some kids, that's their normal. But if you don't know to look for that, then that child's needs not met. They don't have any services for that. So you really need to focus on the needs of the child. And if the child is doing that in your house, then your kids are now exposed to
At risk.
Exactly. Come on, Jonna. Come share a little bit more, Jonna. Give me your thoughts.
Well, I would just have to piggyback off of that. It's easy to say, we should just take them all in, but it's once you get the, from my own personal experience, and we've had different families. My family hasn't taken on any foster kids, but we've had, people in the family who have. And you can get one, cute little thing come in and completely change the dynamic in the house. I mean, completely change the dynamic in the house. Now that, like Jabez said, now that child's needs are not being met. The other kids are all in a tizzy and in an uproar. It's just, it's a difficult situation. Go ahead, Jay.
I was just going to say, I still think it's necessary for us to do all we can to reach those kids. And the closer you are to them, the more of a empathy and responsibility I think that we have as a community to reach them. I don't think anyone is unreachable or anyone is beyond our reach. But if you don't have the skills, if you've never dealt with somebody who's had an issue with violence or substance abuse or low self-esteem, if you've never had any of that in your life, then your best bet may not be to take that child in yourself, but to look into your immediate circle and community to see where that child can get the help that they need. And that's not to say that you don't want to bring them in and make sure that they're placed, but just because they're family doesn't mean that you're doing them a service by bringing them to your space and maybe making whatever situation you have lesser and getting worse rather than making them better.
Mm-hmm. How do you respond to that concept, Michelle, with your experience?
I agree totally with what he's saying, but just from being in the healthcare field, especially when I was working at the health department, placement is more important than the child's need. They have so many kids that they don't have anywhere to put. So it's more about placement than it is the child need. Again, I'm going to speak from the Kansas side because that's where I work. Is that if you have a good social worker, what's supposed to happen is once those kids are placed, there's supposed to be therapists or psychologists that they're supposed to see along with that family so they can walk through, see what's going on. Also, not just for the parent to be able, the foster to be able to handle their child, but also for the child to be able to let that therapist or that psychologist know if there's something going on in that home, because every home that they get put in ain't a good home. So it's supposed to work that way.
But I'm sorry, go ahead.
What happens is that it's so many kids in the loop, and I always get a good social worker. Those kids are placed, forgotten. Sometimes they don't even know where the kids are when the parent comes back to look for them. And that's just how it happens.
Yes. And I was going to say, from the standpoint of having dealt with the social worker, their caseload is so imbalanced and overwhelming that it's just impossible. There's no way that you can do it. Rhonda, I see you shaking your head. What's your response to this concept? What's going on here?
I'm sorry. What's the question?
It really wasn't a question. I was just asking for your response to the what you've heard so far. And I know you had to step away for a minute. So what's your response overall to what you're hearing here?
Well, it's just like what you said. There's the caseload is extremely heavy. I mean, it's ridiculous, especially here in Arkansas, that the governor has assigned or appropriated additional funds for the healthcare workers because they are truly overworked. And in the county that I live, Sebastian County, we have the highest number of foster kids in the entire state.
Wow.
Yes, we do. And so
in your county?
Yes, in my county.
More than Little Rock?
More than Little Rock.
Right. And how is that? I'm sorry.
And
I'm just blown away by that statistic.
It's terrible. And we do not have enough foster families to take these kids. Even the ones that are known as foster families, foster parents, they've already have plenty, and then there's no one else. So, I mean, kids are just out there. Can you imagine feeling unwanted, unloved? And what does that do? It pushes you into other issues, mental issues, drug issues, self-esteem issues, and all of that ends up leading you where? to jail for some reason or another. So it's just like it just spirals out of control.
So that takes us to the point that Michelle made, that placement is more important, which was the point that she was stressing over the needs of the child to somewhat push back. I don't want to say push back in a negative way, but the reality is that placement trumps the needs of the child as the system and the way things are currently. So let's go back to Sheila's question that she had asked early. As a village, because that's really what I want to go in this podcast. As a village, what can we do now to make the system better and provide better for our community? As a village, what can we do now to make the system better and provide better for our community? I'm going to start with Michelle because she's actually doing it outside of, and not saying that we don't have interest and desire, but you're actually doing it. So as you hear that question posed, what do you think as a village? Because we definitely teach a concept. We are a village and we keep talking about the problem. But if we don't come out to address the problem, we're not helping the problem at all. Additionally, I want to always stress the point for people that are not doing anything, please don't tell other people what to do when you ain't doing nothing. So what would you say as the village, what can we do now to make this system better?
As a village, I would say one is like you said, everybody's like, go ahead and take the kids. We're gonna help you. We're gonna help you. And when you need that help is never there. So as a village, if you really want to help and you see these families that are taking in these other kids, you may not be able to babysit or take them or do anything else, but cook a meal, do something that can help this family, because it's not as easy as it look. Everybody's smiling and happy when they get there. They go to cook and stuff, and they go to church on that Easter Sunday. You don't know the struggle that it took to make sure that everybody looked that way.
Yeah.
You could have cooked something or bought a pair of socks. As a village, it doesn't always mean that you're gonna have to go and take care of this child, but you can offer something, even if it's monetary, a meal, a pair of socks, something. And then as far as us, we need to be more involved in legislation. A lot of the reason that we're not getting some of the stuff and some of the systems and some of the things that we need, that we're not even represented to where we can say, well, my community needs this or my community needs that. So that is where we can start. We can start to where we can start showing up at these city meetings and everything that's going to affect us. We're always looking at the presidential race. That's not what is affecting us. What is affecting us is what's right here in our own cities. We need to become a part of that.
Come on. I love that. And we've heard that, have we not, several weeks now, where we're really trying to push people to get involved at the local level in the things that you can get involved in. Because we want it's almost like faith in the church. We want the grandiose. I'm going to pray and lay hands on you, healing for cancer, but you can't believe for a headache. What are you really doing here? So get involved at the level that really impacts and makes a difference. And I love that. I appreciate you sharing. I want to ask you this question personally. Do you find people that know what you're doing, and let's take your immediate family where you basically picked this behavior up from, so I'm not going to count them. Do you find outside of that circle, do people come and volunteer to assist you and help you in your endeavors, or is it pretty much mute?
No, ma'am. It's pretty much mute. Other than, like I said, the ones like my mother, my sister, those who have done this or have always done this. I even have siblings that okay, can you pick up so-and-so from school? I gotta work 30 more minutes. And they give me a whole line of other things that they have to do. And that's what I'm saying. It could even be pick a child up for school. Like, I'm working extra, pick this child up. So no, they always tell you how good of a job you're doing. The kid looks great, but when I asked you to pick them up from dance class, you didn't have time to pick them up. So we always want to you know, and then when it's time to graduation, they all show up at graduation like they help with this kid. So, no, man.
You on it.
I mean, but I mean that sounds like we as a people are struggling with just a community issue altogether. You
Yeah,
take out. I mean, this is not just a foster kid situation. They would do that for your child you gave birth to. So it
yeah,
sounds like we as a people struggle with just a community situation altogether.
yeah. And that's true.
Because I'm sure they're not just saying it because it's a foster kid. I'm not going to support you. They would do it for your kid as well.
That's probably true too.
Jim's JJ said lip service only. And I want to throw this back to the ballpark. Of course, you know, I come from the church and religious community, and we always talk about, you know, we'll go out in the neighborhood and go to, you know, Timbuktu Park and have a crusade in the park. And we
Right.
haven't done anything with the kids right there in your church. You have
Exactly.
children right there in your congregation that have needs, and rather than to try to address any of these needs within your congregation, we're out here running around, and I'm just saying that because that's the arena that I come from. So when Jams JJ says lip service only, you know, that's what I'm looking at and saying there are so many opportunities to serve, but our hands are always idle, but they don't have to be idle because there's so much work out here. There really is, and it is bigger than me, myself, and I. Anybody else that wants to jump in? Hey, Nathan Lamont said that part, Michelle, at graduation. Everybody, that's my child, that's my son, that's my so-and-so, that's my goddaughter. That's what everybody wants to put their little label on it. But where were you in the midst of the struggle?
Right. I do want to say that I know about in our area, I'm sure probably every area, there are classes that they have to take, foster parent classes. So even if you're not wanting to take a child at this time, if you're really interested, if that's something that's pricking your heart, go to the class and see what are they training you to do. Because you may see something, oh, but they're not doing this. So now you can go and tell them. But if you don't go, you don't know. And again, we can sit here and continue to say what they should, coulda, woulda. But until we go and see what actually are you preparing us for, and say, have you ever considered preparing us for this? Have you ever considered this? And have you considered that? We have to get involved. It's like Michelle said, hey, let's get in at the ground roots. Let's get in there with your legislator. But until you can get in there and talk to them, you got to know what you're talking about.
Right. Right.
So
Prepare.
let's yes, exactly. Let's go to some of these meetings. You know, let's stop. You know, we're not just so busy that we can't just go to a meeting. Hey, let me see what this is all about. And then we can learn more about it. And then some of us just have some good ideas. Oh, have you considered? But first of all, we've got to go and find out what they are doing and what they are training.
Because these babies are our babies, number one, and they are our present and our future. And I think somehow we keep taking the eye off the ball. And then when we have situations, then the community is exacerbated. But it was like, but y'all should have seen this coming, because this has been brewing for a minute, but nobody took the time to address the situation as it is. And somehow or another, we stick our head in the sand, and just think it's going to automatically correct itself. It's got self-corrected tape. You know, y'all don't remember anything about the typewriters where you'd be typing and you had the self-corrector on the, yeah, y'all too young for that. Look at your face.
I know what you're talking about.
I don't.
I took keyboard.
Jonna and Jabez are both looking at me like, what in the world are you talking about? Yes, IBM had the typewriters that you put the tape in there and you
corrected it.
And it roll it back and take that up, lift off tape. That's what they called it. Lift off tape would take it off, and then you could type whatever the corrected message was. But we act like we have lift off tape. You're showing your age. We act like we have.
We the same age.
We act like we have lift off tape in these children's lives, and it just doesn't work like that. It just does not work like that. Go ahead, Jay.
I just wanted to chime in that one of the most important things that we can do as a community is ask for the resources we need. Go to the local grocery store and be like, hey, what you got you finna throw out? Go to, especially with kids, they grow out of clothes so fast. Go to neighbors and people and ask them, hey, you know, are you guys thinking about having a garage sale? You have any clothes that you guys are going out? And it doesn't always have to be somebody that you think has it. Kids grow out of clothes so fast. There's always something there. So I think one of the things that as a community that we've stopped doing is letting our needs be known and being able to go up to specifically food, cleaning supplies, laundry detergent, those kind of things that you can coupon for and get almost for free. You know, places are willing to almost give it away because after they're done with it and they can't sell it anymore, they're going to be done with it. That doesn't mean we can't still use it. So I think that one of the things that we have to change in our attitudes is the willingness to ask for help and just be like, hey, you know what? I've got 2 kids, their size this and this, who, you know, I'm not big on Facebook. Y'all know I don't use a whole lot of the social medias, but you can put it out there in a way that's still, you know, respectful to you, doesn't have to hurt your pride, but it makes sure the child gets what they need, which is the goal.
And that makes me come to this point, Jay. So let's take Michelle, and I really did bring her on because I wanted her from her firsthand experience that goes back generationally to be able to respond to some of these things. So then I want to say, Michelle's already doing her part. Should she have to go out there and ask, as you're, and I'm not saying this is what you're saying, but I'm trying to pose this so that we can be pricked and convicted in our hearts to jump in on the bandwagon instead of always passing it off on the next person. Should Michelle, who's already taking her own resources, time, energy, and effort, and what she has, should she have to turn around and go out there and do the ask? Maybe. Go ahead. Yes.
I apologize. I meant that the community should ask, not the person who provided for that child. You know, whether it be the church, because, you know, churches, they'll have drives, but they don't go through the extra step and go ask their local Walmart, Target, etc. Hey, can we have these things? Because they will give them to you. I mean, it's just been my experience. They will give them to you. But we as a community, whatever community programs we have, need to ask. And there's grants out there. There's lots of resources that are underused in our community that a lot of times we don't even know about. But the number one thing is I find that we as the community organizations, whether you be the church or a nonprofit or a daycare system, et cetera, that helps take care of these things, they don't ask. They don't have the, you know, they're so busy in their own day to day, what they have to do to make sure that their organization is taken care of, that their daily objectives are met, that doing those extra steps of asking for help are, at least where I am, not seen. And that's where a lot of these programs that I talk about as far as solutions have come from. When you talk about people in Oakland starting free lunch programs, yeah, they straight up went and got the day old bread, day old food, and started feeding the community with that. You know, it didn't cost them money, and it still was able to feed their community. So I think the community organizations need to ask, and they need to make sure that to do a good marketing and branding campaign, that the foster parent community knows where to get those resources. But I think the community has to do the ask.
Thank you. Johnny, do you have a thought on that? Is there something brewing in your mind? Jonna?
There is. I'm just going to pose this to everybody. I think, and when I say as a culture, I mean us as African American people. There used to be a time, I know when I was coming up, where the families around you in your church, even in your immediate family, even on your block, supported each other. I feel like we've gotten away from that. We've gotten away from, I know right now, I have 3 daughters. If I'm going to throw something away, my mother's in the house with us, I almost have to sneak it out of here because now she doesn't know anybody who can fit these clothes. But her thing is somebody can fit these clothes. Do not put it in the trash. And we never did that when I was coming up. We always, you know, anything we weren't using, we gave it to another family. But I feel like we've gotten away from that. One of the things with the foster care situation is what can we do to keep the kids from even being placed? How can we support families that might need a little extra? Parenting is tough. Things happen. And sometimes you need some outside help, but I feel like we've gotten away from that.
I agree.
What do y'all
The
think?
needs to be re-knit. We're disconnected. We need to be re-knit and reconnected to one another as we were back in the day. And I think that would, as you bring up the point, being proactive, how can we stop from the placement happening to begin with by coming in and providing help, resources, energy, care, concern, love, whatever we can do. And thank you for that. I appreciate it. And as we're talking about what the village can do, these are things that we can start doing right away. We don't have to go through a lot of who shot John and changes to get to this right away. It's just a matter of caring and doing it. When I come back to John's point, Jabez, I want to ask on a level of priority, since again, you are in this that we're talking about in the very throes of it, Michelle, what would you say the priority is? If we were going to, as a village, go out and begin to ask as a priority to help you, what do you believe, and others like yourself who have taken this on full steam ahead, everything that you got is invested in this, what would you say that priority or priorities would be? Because I think sometimes we jump out and say, let's do this, this, and this, and that's not really what the need is. So from your standpoint, and I know you don't speak for everybody, but just from your experience and what you've witnessed, what would those priorities look like?
For my household, the priorities would be, just as he said, like food and clothing. Those are the two things, like, like I have an 8-year-old here right now. Like, we just bought clothes 2 months ago, and we need to go buy clothes now. So, I mean, so food and clothing, and I'm one of those people that's not even above taking hand-me-downs, but people don't do, like she said, people don't do that no more. Like, you can't find nobody giving away nothing hardly anymore. I do have a cousin who she has a shelter over here, and she takes, so we get a lot of stuff, a lot of help from her. But if it wasn't for her, I think sometimes our needs would not be met when it came to certain things. So for me, the priority would be clothing and sometimes food.
Okay. And I think that gives us some place to stop. Tyrone, what are your thoughts on your mind as you're hearing this? What's welling up in your spirit?
To me, I'm just taking in that, it's we've disconnected as a community, because like I said, we've stepped away from things that we have known for years as being a community. No, we may not want to ask for help, but I believe there was a time where, because people were so connected in the community, they knew each other's needs, or
Correct.
They knew that, I know this lady next door to me has kids that could use what I'm about to get rid of, or just having a support system. And from all of this, even though we were talking about the foster care system, to me, it comes down to we've just lost it as a community.
The fabric.
We're not supporting each other as a community, regardless of what our situation is. Whether it's me taking in foster kids, or me opening a store, or me going to church. As a community, we're not a community. And that's our biggest struggle.
Okay. I can hear that, and I can really on all points, because I think that's where Jonna started the whole conversation with how in the past you would have known, and there would have been the understanding and the knowledge, and true enough, I understand if we deal with the idea that some people are too proud, but I'm like this, I'm not gonna make somebody beg if I know they have a need. So, I think that we have to start being a little more observant without putting people in a situation of feeling like they have to more or less, y'all are silly, that you have to beg. So at the end of the day, to pay attention, we can give gift cards that foster parents can use as, hey, that's a good idea.
That is a good idea.
Would that be a good blessing for you, Michelle, if people were to just give you the gift card and let you get what you need?
Yeah. I'm one of the people that it's hard to take stuff. So that might be why ain't nobody giving me that, because I'm one of the people that
and it could be that people just don't know.
But that might be the problem. Of course, I have my circle. I can't say that I don't have my circle of friends that do help me out. And yeah. So yeah, I'm
The
one.
goal here is to engage people outside of the circle. And that's why I said I don't want to talk about your family and those because this is what you've done all your life. So they're going to chime in some way, somehow. We've got to inspire others to take up this cross and help. Because it's going to take all of us pulling together and working together to make this difference. And then I'm still blown away that Rhonda said that her county is the worst in the state of Arkansas, because I'm thinking, man, Little Rock should be so far numerically out of you guys' range. The idea that you all have surpassed them in my brain is just mind-boggling. So it's like I never would have guessed that. Never would have guessed that in my wildest dreams. I'm just blown away with that. So obviously there's a lot of need out there, but there's not a lot of people to respond to that need. Jabez, did you have an idea again on the solution?
A solution for identifying need is hard, because in order to identify a need before you go and try to deal with it, you kind of have to be able to communicate with that person, right? And I think that especially one of the things we've learned this year is that communicating with people in your own community can be difficult, and even more so when you're separated by other barriers. So we really have to forge social fabric connections so that you know what's going on in your own community, and they feel that they can trust you enough to talk about it. Because if somebody comes to me and talks to me about my kids, and maybe, you know, they was out in the streets, or they looking a little hungry, they looking like their clothes could use it, I'm not going to always be receptive to that either. So you really have to, and this is a question that I'm asking myself, is how do you build that social fabric, that trust between one person and another? Even though we may not know each other, we may not kiki, and we may not go out together, you know, or hang out a bunch, that you know that I truly care for you and have your, and hopefully your children's best interest in mind. Enough to actually come by and ask, hey, you know, I got these potatoes, I ain't gonna use them, I was wondering if you guys could use them. You know, I've got, you know, Lord, at the beginning of this pandemic, I bought so much rice, I'm sitting here trying to give it away. Like how do you find those people and make sure that they understand that you aren't doing this out of any malicious intent, but you really, and to me, when I was growing up, the church was that vehicle, but at least the Black church doesn't have that same social contract, I think, anymore. So we have to think of what system we want to build that does include that does have that. Hey, I see you, sister. By the way, I've got this. It's in my car. I brought it for you. I don't know how that's going to happen, because not everybody's as receptive now as they were then. Everybody thinks they should go at it themselves, but I am always willing to accept help. But it's a hard thing to sell to people who you don't know, and that's really it. You got to get to know somebody.
And I think we've got to be relational, which is what we've been saying for forever and a day, is that we're in a phase and a place right now in our society and the world where we've got to go back and build the relational fabric. And there's no doubts about that. And again, I think we keep hearing it over and over, the more that we talk, that this is where we need to go. I'm going to say this, Michelle, until actually my engineer told me that you had children, and you shared last week in some of your comments, had no idea. In the time that I've known you, I have been absolutely clueless, because everybody that was with you, I assumed they belonged to you and they were yours. I think that's a beautiful thing, because you obviously do not make it appear to people as, look at what I'm doing, and you just get out there and you do it. I would not have known, would not have thought, didn't even cross my mind. I want to say again, thank you, and kudos. And even as we're talking about our 4 little girls, you know, I'm happy to again take up the challenge, see a need, feel a need, whatever we can do, from Yes You, O Cubed, Yes You and friends, to help you in your endeavor. I think that's how do you start. Just one, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. And I think as we find individuals one at a time, and we can reach out and help from where we are one at a time, at least we can start with that. And so I want to say to you, whatever we can do to be a blessing to you. And I hope that God would just smile on you and give you all the resources and everything that you need to be successful in your endeavor. But thank you so much. I appreciate you, girl.
Thank you.
Any other questions from anybody else or any other comments about the child care? Because I got one other topic, and you are welcome to stay. Like I said, where am I at on my time? I'm getting close. Okay.
I have a question.
Yes.
Speaking of foster care and foster parents and people who've been in that situation, what is it like emotionally and psychologically for you to take that on? Because my understanding as a foster parent, the child isn't permanent. So there's going to come a point, in my understanding, that they will be removed from you. So how does that work, like emotionally, to know that I'm taking care of a person that I know at some point is going to be taken away from me?
For me, it is sometimes it's pretty tough because you get attached to them. It's just like somebody in your house, they with you all the time. You get attached to them. I don't care if it's a little cousin and you don't see them, at the family events or whatever. You get attached to them, they get attached to you. So it is much therapy, much prayer.
Mm-hmm. Sheila asked a question before you go, Michelle, if you're going to leave us. Do foster parents network with each other as far as needs and resources? Has that been your experience?
That has not been my experience. Like I said, I only can speak for Kansas. The foster parents, most of them, like you said, are not of our community. So they are mostly in the rural areas, even though because these kids come from this area, they come back down to Wyandotte County to get the Wyandotte County services. One, because the Wyandotte County services are free and it's not going to charge them anything to do it. So they come back to this area to get the services that they need for the child, the immunizations, those type things. I have never, in my experience, seen any of them network together. I know that there's resources that they can get for the child over here, but like I said, you have to be one of those people who actually use the resources, but I've never seen them network together.
Is that potentially something that we could suggest and initiate? Would that be a viable part of the solution?
I don't see why it wouldn't be, because most of them, like I said, have to come they have to go to the health department for classes, for training. They potentially see each other in those trainings, but I don't know of any networking that they do.
Okay.
Yeah, I think a support system would be beneficial. I mean, just to have somebody to talk to who's going through the same experiences that you are.
Good idea.
As a foster parent.
Thank you, Sheila. Appreciate that. And that's why, a lot of heads together, we can come up with solutions, ideas, and concepts and things that we can begin to push forward. In some communities, foster parents get a bad rep. They're doing it for the wrong reasons. The few bad eggs frame a picture for the rest. And that is true. There are people out there that genuinely care, and they're not just trying to get a check and some free labor. So thank you for that, King Coochie. Good to see you on tonight. Now, I'm going to throw in this last question, and we're going to get hot and out of here because it's almost time. So you all are welcome to stay after you hear the question or before. You can whatever you want to do. Okay, so I got a situation that's near and dear to my heart tonight. It's burning, it's pressing, and I want to get your response and reaction to it. We're gonna go out with this one. We're gonna go out with a bang, and I really want to know. So I know people from church that have been attending, and the church was plagued with COVID-19, and they were not revealing it to the parishioners. Let's start right there. Pastor gets up. Pastor says, if you're not here for Bible study, if you're not here for church, because they're still gathering in spite of no meds, no beds. Y'all know how I feel. They're still gathering. Go ahead and bug your eyes, because I want you to get ready for this one, because I want to hear what you got to, hey, what you got to say. So as of today, people are dying from this congregation. I had a close family member who is still not completely out of the woods, but so far has tested negative. Thank God. But at the same time, a lot of symptomology, a lot of other stuff going on. And at the end of the day, I have to address the issue with us, and I want to hear what you all have to say. I say brainwashing and mind control, because at the end of the day, now I know I'm dealing with people that know they have physical illnesses and ailments, and they are high risk. I don't care how much you get up and preach and teach on the live stream and in person, that to not come is lack of faith, and you're backslidden and you're not flowing. Now, this is real stuff that's going on, even though this situation is breathing down my neck as of today with a death. I'm still seeing this happen all across the country. And I'm talking about black churches. Y'all can stop talking about the white folks and what the white folks are doing. Love all my white brothers and sisters that are out there. But at the same time, we keep talking about everybody else. And I drove past churches today when I was out in the back. The church parking lots are full, and they're not in a tent. They're not doing social distancing. And so at the end of the day, this is where I'm looking and I'm saying, oh my God, because at this point, this young man is not coming back, and his parents are infected also. But pastor is still, number one, not disclosing to the congregation that we're COVID sick, and over half the congregation has COVID. I got all kind of issues with that, y'all. I got all kind of issues with that. And number two, now we're to the point where people in the congregation are dying. Now, if that ain't mind control, I don't know what it is.
May I?
Yes, you may.
At the head of any organization that knows that COVID-19 is in the population, by not letting anybody know, I think that that's criminal negligence.
I do too. I agree.
Even if they would at least say you got COVID-19 and you choose to come, at least I can't be criminally negligent and say that I then withheld information that could have saved your life. I'm going to start there. I'm more angry about it than that. I think that it goes further than that, because you're talking about people's religion. And where I am in South Central Los Angeles, there's a church directly across the street from me that has been declared on the news as a super spreader because they refuse to close down for any other service.
When I was there, they were just packed in there like roaches.
It's like, you're right across the street from me. You're going and touching all the things in the community of which I live, at the grocery store of which I live. So not only am I mad at the church for doing it to their own parishioners, but they're doing it to this whole community. Mm-hmm. It is very upsetting to me. You can get your Jesus from home. That's what I say.
At what point do we hold the members responsible? I mean, seriously, forget what the pastor's go on and preach.
I think the pastor is liable. I think the pastor is liable, and I think folks need to get all of these tapes. And I told the person that I was in communication with, I don't want to give it away, but I told him, get these videos. Get these services with him up here doing all of this talking. And when you go to court to file your charges in case, take your video along with you everywhere you go. Take it with you.
So the pastor has COVID and hasn't told the members, or he's told them, but people are still coming to church?
The pastor is not telling people that COVID is loose in the land. And he is additionally insisting that the people need to come to church, and those that do not come are not moving and operating in faith. And by the time you get finished with no plague shall come nigh thy dwelling and all of this other foolishness, I want to understand why the plague is coming nigh your dwelling and y'all dying.
Well, that doesn't sound like a church. That sounds like a cult. That the pastor has that much control over you.
Yeah, that's where I'm at.
That sounds like that's a cult. But a lot of, to be honest, a lot of churches are cults.
Well, and I'm calling it mind control.
Right, a cult. What? If your pastor has that much control over you, where you can't make your own decision and say to yourself, you know what, he say come to church, but I'm gonna stay safe and do my own thing and watch him online. That's like you said, mind control, and that's not a church. That's a cult.
But that's a good majority of people. Rhonda, you awful quiet. You ain't saying nothing up there.
Because she attended church.
Nobody home. I can't hear nobody.
Because she go to the church.
No beds, no beds. And at the end of the day, the pastor needs to go to jail. Take all of his hunches and all his hips. He needs to go to jail.
They
Well,
all
he's
need
criminally liable, and he's also civilly liable. They should be suing him. Whoever this person is who lost their life, he should be suing him for loss of life. That is a civil suit. I don't care.
Well, it's no different than if somebody had some kind of disease and was going out spreading it to people and they knew that they had it. You are liable. So I don't understand how these churches are continuing to do this. Now, let's leave the pastor and go to the members.
That's all I'm saying.
Listen,
Pastor, I ain't coming. Okay.
listen, at the end of the day, and then Phil, now this is true. This is true. Even going back to March, I talked to some seniors who really were indoctrinated with this idea of following and obeying leadership and what people tell you to do. Rhonda waiting on confessions. Listen, I can't hear nothing coming. So at the end of the day, even after, now mind you, people were lying down and dying. The place was, y'all that were here local know it was on the news as a hot spot. I still talk to friends and members from that organization who felt guilty because their children insisted that they stayed home, but because of their leadership role and the pressure, they felt like it was their responsibility to be there, even though their friends were laying down dying. Now, I'm trying to get some understanding on that.
I'm not trying to meet Jesus that soon.
Me, love him, but I got
At least not that way.
Is it mind control?
It's important. I think it's mind control, and I also think that I'm only speaking for the ones I know. The offering is more important than those lives. So they're gonna come on, give me my offering. So and it's more important than those lives to me. But
you can Givelify, you can do Cash App, you can do, it's all kind of ways you can raise money.
Yeah, I'm just like I've told someone I ain't coming, so don't look for me because I ain't gonna be there. But I have done that on many occasions. But
Right.
yeah, but I think that I just had a conversation with my mother that we were in the whole big AIDS thing. I ain't gonna tell my age, but we was in the whole big AIDS things, late 80s, early 90s, when it was really, really a mess. And they started charging you if you knew you was HIV positive and you gave it to somebody else, you went to jail.
Come on.
And that's kind of how I feel about the corona. At some point, they're going to have to say, if you know you're positive with this and you give it to somebody else, then you're liable. Then you should become liable for that.
I'm going to tell you, Michelle, I feel that way all day long right now because I feel like he is completely liable. And all those members in the congregation that were not disclosing are complicit.
Mm-hmm.
And
So
if you
did
really
everybody
believe in the church,
Did everybody turn off the tracking? You remember the tracking that they had that said it was on everybody's phone?
On the phone.
Here, because in actuality, even though it was spreading through the church, somebody, not the leader, but somebody just felt badly enough to call and contact my close relative and tell them that they were positive. But there was nothing else going out amongst the people. And that was not from the leader.
If a pastor is supposed to be a shepherd of their flock, he is feeding his flock to the wolves, and that's just not being a pastor. I mean, I don't see how you can consider your position as a pastor and be letting your parishioners be ravaged by disease.
So they're not the only church doing this. So are you saying that across the board, I know what I'm saying and I know what I feel, but I'm trying to hear what you say, what your opinion is on this point, because my blood is boiling. It's boiling, y'all. I just can't believe it. So these pastors that refuse to close their doors and are still bringing in the people en masse, do you feel when the pandemic has whatever, and we start looking at all the folks that have stretched out, are we looking at charges against these churches?
Well, it's hard. I think when the pandemic spreads through respiratory, the church and anybody else is going to say they could have got it from anywhere. They could have got it from anywhere. But we know where it's spreading. It's a hard thing to prove because contract tracing is so hard with such a high population density of people who have COVID-19 in our communities. I think it's unfair, but I think it's absolutely criminally and civilly wrong for leaders of any organization, whether it be you working at Walmart and Target, you working at the gas station as an essential worker, you working in a ER, for them to expose you to something without telling you about it and without giving you the resources to protect yourself.
Well, and they already came up with trying to do the folks got it from someplace else. However, when you got such a high majority of your congregation that all come down with it, you're lying. So at the end of the day, Tyrone, I'm looking at your eyes because I see you thinking. At the end of the day, y'all know where my standpoint is. Go to jail.
Absolutely. And then to come,
leave it up to you. The jail's about to be overpopulated.
And the beds are going to be freed up because you can't have a bed. No meds.
The jail's about to be overpopulated. People are not going to get no religious consultation. We about to be done.
Why do I need religious consultation if you going to bring COVID up in my space and not even tell me that you all are COVID ridden? You don't have any spiritual guidance to get. See, you couldn't say nothing. I'm telling the truth.
No,
so swallow that. Because there's nothing to say. You know that's sinful.
It's morally wrong. Like, if the pastor has COVID, he needs to tell the people he should shut down his church across the board. Do I feel he should go to jail for that? I don't know.
Jail isn't the only solution, but hit that pocketbook.
Should there be a fine? Yeah, there should be a fine. It should be a fine against the church. Would we? If he would have told the church, if he had told the church and people still came,
I'm gonna come back to you.
Okay.
Michelle, when you were talking about HIV, what did they do with those individuals? Was it jail or was it a fine?
Some of them went to when they first started. It was going to jail because it was considered involuntary manslaughter.
Mm-hmm.
So why do the HIV individuals have to go to jail, but you want to let the pastor off the hook?
But HIV now you laying down and you're actually
sinning,
penetrating, and all that good stuff.
Well, when you standing over me and you spitting, preaching and singing, you penetrating all that good stuff.
Then nobody. You
got in my nostrils. It flew right up in my nostrils
because you got too close to the pastor.
Tell them to make an anonymous.
Whose spit was it that got you?
You got too close to the pastor.
Tell them to make an anonymous call to the health department and they'll shut the whole place down.
Well, now you got that, but at the end of the day, which what really needs to happen anyway, and somebody's lying, because this is what I want to understand. All of y'all going to the hospital, and if you all are really telling them where the contract trace, this place should have been identified itself as a hot spot. So somebody's lying. But I heard one pastor tell his congregation, and I heard the video: if you get sick and go to the hospital, do not tell them you're a member of this church. That's what the man.
What?
That's not a church anybody need to be going to.
It sounds like they need to change.
Then you need to stop going to that church.
Mm-hmm.
So is it mind control or you just weak-minded?
Both.
Well, if that's the church you grew up in, if that's
no, you're weak-minded at that point. And that's the issue.
What's the difference between them and all this other stuff? Because it's the same thing.
But I mean, either way, if you're in a church where the pastor has told you they have COVID, or if you at a church period and most of the congregation is coming up sick and you're still continuing to go, there's an issue there. And it's not just on the pastor and the congregation. There's an issue you have because you don't have the willpower to tell yourself, I need to separate from this.
I really want to address, because I know very strong-willed people. I'm going to go back to March.
Okay.
Those individuals that I dealt with, they're older, they have wisdom, they're very knowledgeable. I mean, just professionals. We're not talking about no punks. We're not talking about folks that just out there willy-nilly in the streets and whatever. I'm talking about professionals, done built 2 or 3 houses. They are on top of the world. They are sharp. They are people that make it happen. But at the same time, they have been indoctrinated, obey leadership.
They
And
felt like they had an obligation to be there.
they felt an obligation to be there, and the fact that they were not there, even though their peers were dying from having been at that location, they still felt guilty that they had not met their obligation of leadership. And that's the real thing. That's true. I'm not making that up. That is the
Even
truth.
though they knew their lives were at risk.
Absolutely. And the only reason why they didn't go is because their children argued them down. But even afterwards, because this is the way they've been indoctrinated, that you have an obligation. They both had leadership positions. They both felt like, because the leadership had asked everyone to be present, their lack of, and then went so far, and this is a true statement, they went so far when they chose not to go, to write a letter of explanation to the leadership, and they still felt guilty even after they wrote the letter of leadership, trying to explain to them why they were not there. That's real stuff, y'all.
And I believe you. That's sad. But that speaks to the control of the church.
I don't feel like that has anything to do with COVID. That's a
that's
individual
something
issue to me.
The fact that and I understand, because of their position, and they lived in this church, they served this church, but the fact that you feel you have to put your life on the line to fulfill a position, because what's going to happen if you go away from here? You still can't serve the people. And it's sad that the church or large organizations as a whole can have like that much impact on people.
Well, I'm telling you, and as Anita said, they were devoted. They thought they were being devoted and faithful. So at the end of the day, I'm gonna let you all close out. But listen, when I heard that the baby had died, because that young man ain't coming back, and my heart, yes, put that up. People who did not attend that Kansas City meeting died because attendees brought COVID home to them, and that is the truth. I know of the one who went home, infected her husband, and they both died on the same day.
That's the part. Not just you. You may think it's an acceptable risk for you to get the virus, but think about all of the people that you come in contact with every day. Are you really willing to put all of them at risk? All of them. Because you may survive it, but you might be the only survivor of that entire wreck.
And see, at this point, y'all, I'm not really pushing the issue on the COVID. I'm pushing the issue on the mind control and how we have created an environment in a religious context that is so warped.
That's true.
That I think we need to really stop and look at this for real.
Yep.
And what are we doing? What are we doing? And at the end of the day, I'm praying for the parents who are also positive. And then you can only, in my mind, imagine what it feels like when you put your family in jeopardy to this extent. You've lost a child, and now both of you all got to try to struggle to survive and live through it yourself. And the pastor's still yet going.
I feel like we need to ride out on the pastor. Where he at? Where Mel at? Come pick us up.
Please don't ride with Mel in the woods.
Right.
Oh my God.
Right.
No, it's time to go.
Give him time. Give the pastor time, because he's gonna get it. It's just like what's that man? Giuliani. What's his name? The
Giuliani, the lawyer.
Giuliani.
The lawyer. Right. He has it. He tests positive.
But
So-
this is the thing, Rhonda, the innocent people. And I
I
know
know,
I heard you,
I got
Tyrone,
you.
and
I
saying
got
it's
you.
something wrong with that person and their mind. But when you've been, and we have to really start dealing with this, some of what we've been doing in church all this time is brainwashing the people.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And really, what the pastor was attempting to do by telling them that you don't have faith, like you're a backslidden person, and da 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 da. Part of what he was intending to do was to assert pressure and mental anguish to make you feel like I gotta go.
Mhm. And that
They
is
do.
abuse. That is
Yeah.
plain old abuse.
Thank you, Donna. Yes.
Yes. And they know who they're doing it to, the elderly and the young. Mhm. They do it intentionally.
And the
And
people that don't understand that their faith is not within four walls.
Mhm.
they
Their
haven't
connection,
taught
their
that.
connection with God, their salvation has nothing to do with that building.
But they've been taught almost the
But
exact
they've been taught that.
opposite of that.
Yeah, they've been
I mean, I can
taught.
pull you right out right now and say, forsake not the assembling of yourselves together as the manner of some is.
Oh,
And
yeah.
some people don't show up just with that one scripture
Mhm.
Mhm.
because they have been indoctrinated every word in the Bible. And then particularly when your leader comes and says it,
See,
Come pick me up, Mel.
John,
y'all done woke Mel up. And
right,
especially when the leader says it
Right.
and starts quoting those scriptures, that's your cue to show up.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And I think that's just our older population, period, because my mother is 83 and she was still trying to go to church, but they still had that church open. And she was still trying to go. And I asked her, what color do you want your casket? And
See,
Come on.
she said, what are you talking about? I said, because this disease will kill you.
yes.
And so I need to know what you want me to do when you're not here. And that was the last conversation we had about that. She went on in that room and had a seat. But
Mhm.
In that order.
but she because of her position in the church, she was considering still going to church.
Mm.
And the
And-
person that God's gonna take care of you, he's gonna protect you. Indoctrination is what she was going on.
I heard it all. I've heard it all. And I'll say, even in the super spreader event that we all were made aware of after folks started dropping and dying like flies here in March, if you read the opening scripture, they had somebody get up and read, no plague shall come nigh thy dwelling, and the whole scripture. And them folks was dropping like flies.
Wow.
Somehow that's got to hit your conscience. If you're a leader of any
Yeah.
organization, that's got to hit your conscience. And if you don't have a conscience of which that hit, then you have no business leading a church or anything else.
Absolutely.
But the sad part about it is, like we've said many times, most people don't realize the effect of it until it impacts them. Most people say, that's happening. We know this is going on, but I'll be okay. I'll be good until it hits you. And people really need to get understanding that people are literally dying.
Literally.
I saw a post yesterday on Facebook where a nurse was talking about how they were sending these like computer monitors into rooms where like people were in like almost like hospice, and that was like their time because the families couldn't come, so they were been able to like FaceTime like their last days with their families, and it's like it's taking people out. It is a real deal. And like I said, the sad part is people don't realize how big it is until it hits them, until they're impacted by it.
Well, at the end of the day, it's the pastor's nephew and the pastor's family. But at the same time,
And he had service this morning.
there is probably did. There at the same time, there's the reality that some people do not care. And I don't know how else to say it other than some people do not care. And that being said, we're going to get ready to wrap it up. I'm going to let each of my guests and each of our friends share their closing thoughts. But I had to touch on that because it's burning my insides. I'm just so disappointed and upset for me, the leadership, because I feel like we are responsible for the sheep. And we are responsible for the people. Now, y'all know I'm teaching lions. I ain't doing sheep no more. But at the end of the day, for those that have to have somebody tell them what to do, those are sheep. Y'all understand? Those are sheep. Those are not lions. Those are sheep. What do sheep do? Sheep do. They follow, like I keep telling you about the Judas lamb. They send it right over the ledge, and the rest of them walk right behind it, even though they saw what happened to the first one. So there are sheep out there that need care and need tending. And my heart really goes out. I have to send my condolences to the loved ones and the family members that are grieving the loss of this young man's life. And we're praying for the parents that they will recuperate. I really still want to say no meds, no beds. But at the end of the day, blessings to them. And come on, lemmings, that's exactly blessings to them. And I wanted to bring this point up because if you have a loved one, and Michelle, I'm so glad that you did what you did. If you have a loved one that would fall into this trap and fall prey to this kind of pressure from the church, I pray that you will rise up and say something to your loved ones to really get their attention and their mind, because God does not, N-O-T, all caps, bold, italicized, God does not require that from you. And just be clear on that. If you don't hear anybody else tell you, STL is telling you today, your spiritual thought leader, you are not required to go out and die for your faith. And with that, I'm going to let everybody say what you want to say. We'll start with Johnny and work around and come around to Tyrone.
I would reiterate that if you, and we all know people who simply, maybe they just don't have it in them to say, you know what, I'm not going to be able to do it. Say something to them. Listen, I've had my own kids side-eye me. And I just love the fact that Michelle put that right in her mama's face.
Mm-hmm.
And you can be mad, but you will be alive to be mad. And that's all. That's the bottom line. We want you to be mad all day long. You can be mad this time next year. I'm going to be so happy to see you alive and mad.
Mm-hmm.
Wear your mask and let's reknit the community. I like that term.
Love it. Love it. Thank you. Thank you. Rhonda?
God, I don't know what's wrong with our people. Oh my God, what is wrong? I mean, it's real. People are dying. Even the grandmother that we're helping, her father lives in California, and I'm not sure where he works, but he tested positive for COVID at work. He went home and he has given it to his wife. So now they're not expecting her to live. So it's just so terrible. You're going out and you're getting it and you're taking it home to people. You're taking it home to family, and you're taking it home to, the elderly is or people that have underlying issues. We're gonna have to be more conscious of what we're doing. And it's not always about us, but we have to start thinking about everybody else as well. Who are we taking it to? Who are we affecting? When we decide to buck the system and not do what we're asked to do, who are we affecting? And that he's doing all that. He's calling all the people wanting to come to church because yes, they can give money through PayPal, but it's a lot better if they can call the church and give them that $100 line and that $20 line, and he can pull and pull and pull, and they get more money that way than you do PayPal. But at the same time, who are you affecting? You're sending these people back out. You're sending them back home to where now they're affecting their children, their spouses, their grandparents, and we're not thinking. We're really being selfish.
Mm-hmm.
We're really being selfish. We've got to do the right thing, and that's definitely not the right thing. I'm with Mary. I'm mad tonight, so I'm about ready to go burn the church down.
Oh wait.
I'm right. I'm ready to go.
I have no parts in that. No.
I see you. I see you whispering. I see you whispering.
You're all right.
Come on, Michelle.
I'll just say ditto to everything that everyone else has said, and just be safe. Make sure that you do all the things that's recommended: the washing the hands, the staying far away from people as you can, not the 6 feet, as far away as possible, to not spread this disease. These recommendations that they give is just what they think that they know. So stay in your own household, stay home as much as you possibly can, and just be safe.
Yes, yes. They said Mel got a whole carload. I didn't mean to laugh, but they cut. No, hurry up because she said the Chiefs are on. Chiefs are. Come on, Jay.
Okay, well, I just want to thank all of the SU community for having me on this week. It's really been an honor, a pleasure speaking with y'all about all of these issues. Specifically when it comes to our kids, just remember they are our kids. Even if they aren't yours, they are our kids and they need us. They don't know that they need us. They don't want to admit that they need us, but they do. So whatever you can do to support these children as they grow into young adults, as they grow into hopefully fulfilled adults, please see them, help them, let them know that you're there. Secondly, as regards to this virus here in Los Angeles, we are going into 3 weeks of a lockdown, and they're being real serious about it. I saw about 6 police cars in the time that we've been speaking tonight, just riding around looking for people who are out. So please take the virus seriously, even if you don't feel that you will be personally impacted. I love you enough to want to see you around. And thirdly, the final thing I'll say is, in this time of coronavirus where we are all so physically distant, just make sure that the people that come to your heart, make sure that they hear from you, because it matters. It matters a lot to them in their physical well-being, their mental well-being. So anybody who can hear my voice, call somebody, even if you just thought of them because he heard a song y'all both like. I'm sure they'd love to hear from you as much as I would.
Awesome. Beautiful. Tyrone.
Well, I would close out with, I learned 2 things during this conversation. One, that there's a lot of brainwashing in the church. And 2, we have some community issues that we need to work on, but those can be other conversations. But to close out, I would just say, just love on each other, take care of each other, do what you can. It's a scary time right now. I think we're starting to get used to hearing someone's not going to make it or someone passed. Do what you can to stay safe and make sure that people are around you safe. And again, like I said, love each other, check on your strong friends, do what you can to just impact the world one day at a time. And hope to see you next Sunday.
And there you have it. Thank you for joining us on Yes You. We want to say thank you again to Jabez and also to Michelle for joining us on tonight. You guys did a beautiful job. We appreciate your input, and we are supporting you, Michelle, whatever way we can. We're there for you. I always appreciate Jonna, Rhonda, and Tyrone. Those are my babies and those are my friends. We come every Sunday night at 6:00 p.m. Thank you for joining us. To everybody that came into the chat and those that did not, we appreciate you for coming. This has been your spiritual thought leader, Regina L. Stillman, and my friends coming at you tonight. And I always close out, peace for your journey.